Hi, everybody, welcome back. I hope you're all doing well. So, this Netflix series, I've got a lot of people talking. Adolescence. Oh my God. If you've not seen it, I'll say you should watch it. So, it's about this young guy who ended the life of his classmate, right? And oh, the intensity.
When I tell you this series wouldn't let me breathe, and now all my edges can do is grieve. Oh, Jesus, Jerome, Levante, Christ.
Police! What are you looking for? You're making a big mistake. He's only a kid.
Dad, I haven't done anything.
Now, I already knew from the cast that this was going to be one that was going to last. But the way that Owen Jamontrell Cooper stole the show, this young man right here, baby, he had my full attention. If you have not seen this powerfully executed miniseries on Netflix, baby, do yourself a favor and go run watch it. It's only 4 episodes. In this series, we meet the Miller family as their life is being turned on its head because their 13-year-old son, Jamie Miller, is being arrested and accused of unaliving one of his classmates. This revelation forces Jamie's parents to be confronted with any parent's worst nightmare. Now, the subject matter of this series in and of itself was entertaining, but what I found to be the most powerful was the overarching conversation that this series forced to the forefront and presented it in a way that couldn't be ignored. It really takes this deep look at toxic masculinity and the little control that parents have over the content that their kids ingest and the way that it shapes their ideology. The entire series was shot in a single take shot style, which in my opinion was a very genius move because it added this level of agonizing intensity that you could never really break away from. And I feel like that emotion was needed given the subject matter, especially as it pertains to episode 3, when you're taking this deeper and intimate look into Jamie's mentality and really learning about who he is.
Some of the takes from people is going to be a bit of a spoiler, but then at the same time, I would love for every young woman, especially young men and their fathers to watch this, all right? Most of the people in the UK here are saying that they should have made the main character a black boy because knife crimes in the UK are done mostly by young black men, all right? So they don't understand. So they are thinking it doesn't have anything to do with them, and because of that, they don't want to watch it. And what I see in the comments of most of the people who leave this type of videos is that these are the people who need the videos, but they don't want to watch it. And also because if the lead role was given to a black boy, most of the other ethnic groups or other cultures and people from other races, they won't watch it. They'll be like, oh, it's a black people's thing, so they are not going to watch it. But it's a problem that affects everybody, and them using a white boy doesn't negate from the fact that these things are happening, and it happens a lot. All right, so I am so happy that they put out this movie. I really, really would love, especially men who have boys, like watch it with your boys. While I was compiling the reactions from people, I didn't see a lot of men talking about this. Honestly, I didn't see a lot of men. The couple of men I saw, they were movies and TV show reviewers who were just talking about the film, but not in the aspect of how it's important for boys and men to watch it. I feel like we should go viral. It should be played in schools for young children to watch it, to understand some of the things that they consume and what it can do to them, how it affects them. And I feel like parents should also watch it so they will know what their children are doing behind closed doors, because this dad thought he knew his son, but he didn't know him. But anyway, let's get into what people had to say about this, and I'm going to come back and talk somewhere. Leave your thoughts in the comment. Thank you.
I almost feel like we left our thinking caps at home, like the lights on but nobody's inside. Because I don't know who sat down with their family or by themselves and watched that movie, that short limited series on Netflix called Adolescence, and thought the point of the short series was knife crime. So if it completely escaped your brain, common sense is chasing you, but you are faster, let me tell you what that series was actually about. It was about the rise in incel culture and femicide, and we actually have a femicide issue in the UK, and I don't know why it took last week for the government to speak about it. There was one specific news story for me that really hit home. A young girl, she was on her way to school, and she was basically slain in the street like an animal by a young man who... The storytelling of Adolescence was very emotional. It hit the nail on the head for me, especially when they were showing the school. There were so many nuances within those scenes in the school. I just want to talk about it for a bit. So there was a bit where everyone was making jokes, and there was one specific boy, I think his name was Ryan, I could be wrong, in the school, and he was just coming out with the jokes. I know us girlies, we've all heard them in British schools. Just very, I know the term Jack the Lad, very like locker room, and everyone thinks it's funny. But incel culture, it doesn't start online. It starts with you and your friends sitting around speaking misogynistic things, locker room banter, locker room culture, rating girls, etc. It then moves on to online, and then that's where you see all this incel culture, and they feed off the energy of one another. What people need to start doing is, since they've seen Adolescence, I really feel like it's important to start stopping it as soon as you see it. If you hear somebody speaking, regurgitating that Andrew Tate bull crap, or regurgitating that incel rubbish, stop it. Because as you could see from Adolescence, the parents were completely clueless. They just said he was angry, or he went to his room, he was quiet, etc. As a community, because one thing about this England, it's very individualistic. Even the working culture is very individualistic. But outside of England, I find that a lot of places are more communal. It's all about the community, and the community has a obligation to the children of tomorrow and the children of today to help them grow. It's the community. Because I don't know where I read this or where I saw it, or maybe it was a movie where it says the child that feels rejected from their village will burn down the village just to feel its warmth or something. I don't know if that's from the Jungle Book. I've probably butchered that, but children that feel rejected, resented, they will act out. And it's just unfortunate that now a lot of those children, for whatever reason, are feeling the resentment, the rejection, whatever, are choosing to unalive young girls or just women because of that. Let's stop it. Let's get ahead of it.
I knew that after watching Adolescence on Netflix and opening any type of social media platform, I would be subjected to the most unhinged and brain-dead statements I've ever read in my entire life. But the main thing that I wanted to talk about is the amount of grown-ass women coming on this app and fixing their lips to say that they didn't believe that the young boy killed his classmate. So you're telling me after the very first episode, in which they showed the CCTV footage of him following the girl and stabbing her 7 times, them finding his shoe at the crime scene, him avoiding literally every single question thrown at him regarding his whereabouts the night that she was murdered. So after the evidence being thrown in your face, a literal video of him murdering the girl, you guys didn't think that he did it. And then people saying that they were waiting for the big twist, and when it didn't come, they were extremely disappointed. It's extremely frustrating to see people engage in the exact same behavior that was criticized in the show. For example, the last episode of the show, when that guy came up to Jamie's father, the worker came up to Jamie's father and was telling him how he was on Jamie's side and how he saw the pictures of Katie, child porn pictures of Katie, and saying that if he crowdfunded, he would get a lot of support. Like, it just reminded me of hybristophiliacs. I think that's how you pronounce the word, where people fall in love with criminals and mass murderers. It's so frustrating to see. Now, praising the actor is one thing, because I also think he did a phenomenal job with this role. But I don't understand how you can comfortably come on the internet and admit that you did not think that he did it when the evidence was thrown in your face the first episode. But yeah, that's just me.
He thought he could ask her out because she was weak. He thought her weakness would be more justification for her saying yes to a date than no. He thought he was doing her a favor because she had been devalued by everyone, because everyone had seen her news. So he was like, oh, well, no one thinks you're like hot stuff, so I might as well just, ask you out as a little bit of a favor. That is one of the most concerning parts of the entire Adolescent limited series on Netflix, because you can see how the thought arises. And ultimately, like, the fact she wasn't weak was kind of her downfall, wasn't it? Like, because she had her self-respect still, despite the fact her news were leaked to the entire school, because she still had her self-respect and was like, no, what the hell, I'm not going to go out with you. And she actually pushes him and makes him the weak one. And I feel like that's what set it all off, because then after that, the psychologist is like, I don't think we did any more meetings, because yeah, I have my answer. Just go watch Adolescent on Netflix. Like, I can't stop thinking about it. Thank you to this commenter, because how could I forget? My mouth literally fell open in episode 3 when he said that, because I was just like, oh, there's so many problems here. Like, I can actually understand that psychologist. She was just like, yeah, There are so many things here I don't have time to address, and it's actually not my job to address right now. Let's just keep it stepping. And what's scary is the amount of men in the comments saying the exact same thing. Should I throw a party? Like, who do I call? Should I invite OJ Simpson, R. Kelly? Like, what are you guys even talking about right now? And it's just further indicative of the fact that, like, you guys actually don't value women's lives. You guys actually don't think, wow, what a loss of life, especially a young girl. Like, why am I even saying woman? A young girl, she was a child. Oh, because she made fun of someone because he was making fun of her for her news being leaked. Are we all on the same planet right now? And I don't know if it's like a bastardization of like the idea women have said, like, oh, I would rather die than be assaulted. Why are you taking that and then just running crazy? Like, what?
One observation that I learned through watching Adolescence was the adultification of black girls. So in, of course, the series, we see Jade, who is Katie's best friend, go through a lot of like emotions. She's emotional. She is out of it because, of course, her best friend has been murdered and so forth. And when she's, you know, being interviewed by the police, and then you know, she kind of like burst out because she's emotional, you know, of course, of what has happened. I observed a line that Ashley said, and he goes, why is she so aggressive? And that to me showed the adultification of Jade in that moment. Ashley in that moment didn't see Jade as a little girl or a child who lost her best friend, but he saw her as an adult that now needs to reason with the fact of her feelings. He saw her as someone who is now questioning, like, why do you need to act out like this? Why do you need to be like this? And we are then introduced into the theme of the adultification biases that a lot of black girls go through in secondary school, and where we are introduced to it in secondary school. And even when Jade has that fight and then she goes off as well, I think she's talking with like one of her teachers, the teacher even still tries to show to her to even reason like an adult, you know, Jade, no, you don't have to act like this, all this stuff, etc. Tries to make her be so mature for her time. And this is why, for me, I am so burdened with protecting children's innocence, and burdened with letting children just be children, you know. But if that line was intentional, and if that theme was intentional, I don't know, this is just my observation, that's something in which a lot of black girls can relate to, is where secondary school is where we are introduced to a lot of adultification biases. You know, our feelings and our emotions are pushed to the side, and we are kind of being presented with that strong black woman narrative, which inherently was depicted onto Jade. So yeah, a really good series and a lot of lessons to be learned.
I am not going to shut up about Netflix series Adolescence. And this is from episode 2. And this is a father-son dynamic that I don't see people exploring that I want to explore. Now, yesterday I posted about misogyny being a sociological issue, not something that is treatable in therapy, but needs to have social consequences. This is the dynamic between fathers and sons that needs to be addressed and needs to be explored. And so the male figure, the caring male figure, is something that is missing from the lives of most boys. Now, the dynamics between these two is very subtle. So the cop, clearly, you see his suit is classy, he's muscular, attractive, he's handsome. He talked about being athletic and aggressive. His son is nothing like that. And so his son is more socially awkward, not into sports, not interested in girls, and he's having a hard time relating to him. This speaks to the alienation and isolation of boys that don't follow this typical sports girls, the most boisterous person in the room script. They are different. And adult men are having a difficult time reaching them and connecting to them because they're not going to sit and talk to you about basketball or football for 5 hours. How do we help fathers understand how to relate to their sons who are different than them? Parents, fathers need to understand that you brought this child into the world. He does not belong to you, and he has no obligation to be just like you, to be the man that you are. In fact, the expectation should be that he's a better person, not a better man. Let's talk about that and dig a bit deeper.
So I normally don't do this type of content, but I just finished watching Adolescence on Netflix.
Oh my goodness. As a parent, I think this is the wake up call we've all been waiting for. A disclaimer, being a parent is not easy. As a parent, we don't know it all. We're learning, adapting every single day. So the lessons I'm about to talk about is not any criticism of anybody, just these are the lessons that I learned from the show. Number one, it's so important to understand the culture of the school we're sending our children to. And watching the program, I noticed that the school was very chaotic. The teachers looked exhausted. The teachers had no control over the students. The students were all over the place. Number two, I think this is like a social economic issue. Right now, there's a cost of living crisis. I don't think it's any parent's fault. It's socio-economic issues whereby you're working all the hours under the sun to make sure you're providing the best life for your children. After school activities cost money. Buying the latest XYZ for your children costs money. It's almost like a catch-22 for parents. How do I ensure I have time for my kids, listening to them, spending time with them, understanding them, knowing what they're going through, but at the same time ensure there's a roof over their head? That's a catch-22 for me. In this particular show, the parents were doing the best, working long hours to provide for their son, finding hobbies for their son, and to just find almost like, what did I do wrong as a parent? That is a tough one. Number three for me is social media consumption. Do we as parents know what our children are consuming online? Social media platform, what are they consuming? Do we actually know? And sometimes kids can be very, crafty, whereby they're showing one side to you and showing one side to their friends. What our children consume online, sometimes we don't know, so we can't even help them. It's like being a parent, it's so tasking, and it's so, after watching that show, has become even scarier. Lastly, as an African, Nigeria, values are so important. What values are we instilling in our children? How we can do that is by leading by example. Hosting family events, helping our children develop empathy. Also label and reinforce expressions of value. That is so important. On Babylon, I think as parents, it's important for us to keep on learning, adapting, and praying over our children's life. God bless parents doing the best they can. What a fantastic, thought-provoking show. If you haven't watched it, go and watch it and let me know what you think.
Parents, aunties, uncles, if you take care of any children at all, especially boys and girls, let them understand what is happening in that movie. Help them to be able to speak about their feelings and their emotions. A lot of people were talking about children not having extracurricular activities. Okay, most of the kids these days, you find them online. They come back from school, they are in their rooms. You don't know who they are talking to, who they are chatting with, these games that they play. You don't know the friends that they associate with in schools and so on and so forth. And this is part of the problem. So it's easy for these red pill manosphere content to get to them and radicalize them. That's why the rate of femicide is going up, which is very true. All right, so you need to be in the lives of your children. I think most parents, their parenting ends at providing for the kids. You give them food to eat, they have a place to put their heads, and that's it. Most of the parents, they are like, at the end of the day, my children are well fed, they have a place to sleep. Maybe I take them on holiday once a year and that's it, and they don't get involved in what happens in their children's lives. All right, or they are so busy, and it's understandable. I'm a parent too. It's not easy. All right, you're always working, you're trying to provide and so on and so forth. When you have a little time, you want that time to rest, right? So it's not easy, but you have to find that time, because the moment you decide to have children, that is part of the responsibility. It's not about just having children and providing for them, but making sure you are in their lives, explaining things to them. That police officer and his son, boy, he's very quiet, very shy, timid, different, right? That doesn't mean that he can't also do these type of things. You don't know when it becomes too much for them and they decide to act out, because the main character, a lot of places, a lot of people will see this boy and they'll think he's a good boy, right? But then one thing happened that made him feel like he wasn't man enough. Not enough girls are looking at him. He didn't know how to play football and so on and so forth. It didn't make him an alpha male, and he's too young to be thinking about being an alpha male, right? So a little bit of guidance is going to help these young men, in my humble opinion. But yeah, at the end of it all, it's a great watch. I feel like it should be a must watch. Watch it if you can. At the end of the day, children are not accessories, they are people. All right, they grow, they are absorbing a lot of things. The neglect is going to show on them. They are like a white shirt. Everything that you do is going to show. Okay, it's going to show on it. If you're a good parent, it will show on that white shirt. If you're a bad parent, it will show. The way you talk in the house, it will show on them. The way you handle your emotions around them, it will show on them. If they are timid, if they are confident, whatever it is, it will show. All right. So it's not somebody else's responsibility to raise your child. It is your responsibility first before the village comes in. All right. A lot of parents do leave the responsibility of raising their children to the schools and to everybody else but themselves. All right. Oh, that's why they go to school. No. That's not why they go to school. You gave birth to them. It's your responsibility. And the school in that series, oh my God. The secondary school in that series, if this is what is happening in the schools, we have a big problem. But I get it. It's like most of the teachers, there's a lot of red areas. Like, you can't do this, you can't do that. If you do this, it's abuse. If you do that, it's this. But then I feel like some of them just overlook certain things. You know, they don't call the children out. They don't do anything. The children run the school, basically. And everybody had a phone in there. That was one thing I also noticed in the series. Every kid had a phone in there. But like I said, I feel like it's a must watch if you get the time, if you have children. If you don't have children, you can still show it to people who do have children. Let them watch it with their kids. It's a great and a must watch. And that's all I'm saying. It's an eye opener into some of the things that do happen that a lot of parents may not see, or omit, or they don't believe that their kids can be like that. And that's the other thing. Most parents have that kind of mindset. Oh, my child is not like that. He's a good boy. She's a good girl, but you don't know what she's up to. All right. So be in the lives of your kids. Open your eyes, listen to them. It's not every day shouting. Discipline. Sometimes you have to be soft so you can come to their level so they can talk to you. Most of these kids, they can't talk to their parents. All right, because they're afraid of how their parents will perceive them. That's why somebody on the internet can get to them and say certain stupid things to them, and they will absorb because they feel seen. All right, but hey, I'm going to leave it here. Leave your own thoughts and opinions in the comments, and I'll see you again with another video. Take care of yourselves and one another. Bye.